While 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports are still involved in active legal procedures against the sport's leadership, NASCAR has decided to allow them to compete as open teams in 2025, and this has been the biggest breakthrough of the year for the teams in active lawsuit against NASCAR. So, while the antitrust action against NASCAR is ongoing, the sanctioning organization has eliminated an anti-competitive clause from its rulebook, enabling 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports to participate as open teams in 2025. They have shown mercy to the teams for once. Could this be a peace offering, or are they finally budging? This action puts a stop to concerns that the sport could refuse the team's membership next year, but the struggle against the new charter agreement is far from done. The team's attorney, Jeffrey Kessler, released the following statement as they reacted to this news. "We are pleased to announce that NASCAR has removed the anti-competitive release requirement in its open agreement, which will now allow 2311 and Front Row Motorsports to race as open teams in 2025. My clients will continue their appeal to the Fourth Circuit to issue an injunction so that they can run as chartered teams, therefore avoiding irreparable harm. Both race teams are pleased that they will continue to be a participant in this sport that they love while fighting to make it fair and just for all. All indications suggest that racing as open teams might result in a major loss of money for 2311 and Front Row Motorsports, as well as the risk of missing races because they will no longer be locked in. While the field seldom surpasses the 40-car limit these days, open teams must compete their way into the Daytona 500, with some always leaving after the duels. In essence, Saturday's development only removes rumors that NASCAR wouldn't allow the teams onto the grid in 2025 as they challenge the legality of the new charter agreement they refused to sign in September. Denny Hamlin made headlines at the season finale when he intimated that if 2311 failed to retain the charters, they would not race the following year, but that no longer appears to be the case. Earlier this month, a court refused their application for a preliminary injunction to preserve their charters while the litigation is pending, citing the fact that they failed to meet the burden of evidence in claiming irreparable injury. The two race teams are appealing this judgment since their 4 charters will expire at the end of the calendar year. They are also in the process of obtaining 2 charters from the now-defunct Stewart-Haas Racing, but the sale cannot be completed owing to this issue. The teams filed an antitrust action accusing NASCAR of being monopolistic bullies, and were rejected a request to be recognized as chartered teams in federal court last week while the dispute is ongoing. A charter is effectively a franchise that guarantees prize money, a seat on the field every week, and other benefits. Both teams insisted on competing as open teams, which meant they'd have to show up each week and qualify their cars for every race. Open teams do not enjoy the same privileges as chartered teams, including a fair share of the cash prizes. After losing the injunction, which both teams are appealing, Hamlin switched direction and stated that it was TBD if 2311 would attend the season-opening Daytona 500 in February as an open team. The choices for 2311 and Front Row, controlled by entrepreneur Bob Jenkins, were to either not race or risk a court rejecting the action outright due to the assertion that teams cannot challenge the governing body. The phrase preventing NASCAR from being sued was deleted in paperwork distributed to teams on Friday. The future of both teams has been thrown into question in recent months owing to their refusal to sign the most current charter agreement, instead opting to sue NASCAR. After being denied a preliminary injunction a few weeks ago, 2311 Racing and FRM scored a little victory on Saturday morning. 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports have reached an agreement with NASCAR to compete as open teams during the 2025 season, even while the team's antitrust lawsuit continues, Jordan Bianchi, writing for The Athletic, reported. In response to Bianchi's post, 2311 Racing's Denny Hamlin also clarified, "For clarification's sake, no agreement was reached," Hamlin wrote. "They just removed the provision." Regardless of how things played out, one thing is certain. 2311 Racing and FRM will be allowed to compete in the Cup Series in 2025. Despite their continuous insistence that they would be able to compete while they resolve their legal issues, it is now apparent that 2 intriguing teams will not be leaving the sport. That's fantastic news for NASCAR and its fans. Continuing, Fox's Bob Pockrass made sense of what the move means for both teams. "This means 2311 and Front Row will at least be open cars in 2025, Pockrass added. Without this move, the teams had 2 choices. 1. Sign the open agreement to race while risking that the previous legal claims release clause would be considered valid, which would dismiss lawsuit. Or 2. Not race. In 2025, 2311 Racing and FRM will embark on new and thrilling journeys. They are set to add another car to their fleet by obtaining a charter from Stewart-Haas Racing, and both teams hope to build on their successful 2024 seasons. Specifically, 2311 Racing made significant progress this season. Tyler Reddick advanced to the Championship 4, and while things did not go his way at Phoenix Raceway this past weekend, the foundation for future, consistent success has been established. Time will tell whether Nascar, 2311 Racing, and Front Row Motorsports reach a new agreement before the 2025 Daytona 500, but it's clear that both teams are committed to moving forward in the sport, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle their new standing in the Cup Series when the time comes. However, that wasn't all, as what happened this and last weekend caused for a lot of rumors going around, especially from outsiders, and Denny Hamlin had a harsh message for them, and especially Larry McReynolds, who responded to his proposed NASCAR playoff scenario. On X, McReynolds reacted to Hamlin's playoff structure, which includes quadruple regular season points, 7 races to qualify for the Championship 4, and 3 races to determine the champion. So just what we need again, our champion could go through the entire 10-race playoff, not win a race, might not need to, and at the final race back possibly to where for one driver headed into the race, a clinch scenario. Now this would be nail-biting and exciting, McReynolds wrote. Hamlin read McReynolds' message and referenced what happened in the NASCAR Truck Series this season. Hey Larry, I know facts are hard to comprehend, but we actually had a champion crowned in trucks by a driver who didn't win at all during the season under this format, Hamlin responded. Sorry, so what were you saying about winning again? A few minutes later, Hamlin chastised McReynolds for his comments on 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports' lawsuit against NASCAR. Oh, and if you could stop spreading disinformation to your listeners about our lawsuit, I would really appreciate it, thanks. It's unclear what disinformation McReynolds allegedly spread regarding the complaint. However, the former NASCAR crew chief and Fox Sports pundit criticized 2311 and Front Row for suing the governing organization. We've got an organization that's been here not even 4 years that all of a sudden is saying, we gotta change the way NASCAR's run. I'm all about change. Change is what makes you better, McReynolds said last month via Brett Winningham of Speedway Digest. But you know what? When I see Richard Childress, Jake Roush, Rick Hendrick, and Joe Gibbs that's been here longer than some of these guys have been pooping yellow, and they signed off and said this is good, we're okay. There's things we don't like about it, but we're going to do what's best for the sport and best for our business. And they signed off on it, and these people that have been either not competitive or only been here for 4.5 years have been saying the way we've done business for 76.5 years is wrong. Denny Hamlin co-owns 2311 Racing with NBA icon Michael Jordan. The team, together with Front Row Racing, is suing NASCAR for unlawful monopolization of premier stock car racing in order to enrich themselves at the expense of premier stock car racing teams. What do you think? Will 2311 be successful in their case against NASCAR? Or are they doomed from next year on? After all, open teams don't make any money during the race weekends. Is that something 2311 could sustain for a long time? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.